as the government appears determined to roll out 5G services in India, telcos have opposed any move to set aside spectrum for captive private networks at an administered price. They argue that such a move would skew the playing field. On the other side of the fence are private network supporters like the Tatas, ITC, and the Broadband India Forum, which counts major global tech players among its members. They have argued that assigning spectrum directly to enterprises is the only way to make Industry 4.0 a reality. Now, the latest blows in this battle over 5G captive private networks have been struck. In a move that could jeopardize India's upcoming 5G spectrum auction, the Cellular Operators Association of India sent a rather blunt letter to the Minister of Communications, Ashwini Vaishnaw, on Wednesday. The letter said there would be no business case for rollout of 5G networks if captive private 5G networks were to be permitted. COAI is the apex body of telecom operators, with Reliance Jio, Bharti Airtel, and Vodafone Idea as its key members. COAI has made its position clear, allowing independent entities to set up private captive networks with direct 5G spectrum allotment would severely impact revenues and degrade 5G's business case for telecom operators. It could even force telcos to relook at their 5G spectrum strategy, though most say they are unlikely to pull out from participating in the auction altogether. The COAI letter has said that wherever 5G has been rolled out, there have hardly been any gains in revenue from the retail segment. Instead, revenue and efficiency enhancement can happen only in the enterprise segment, which involves the use cases that an enterprise could instead meet with its captive private network if allowed to. Telcos have said that based on global trends, 40% of the revenues from 5G come from the enterprise segment. They fear that they would end up losing this chunk of revenue. Telcos have also made other arguments against the direct allocation of 5G spectrum through administrative routes to enterprises for private captive networks. They have said that such a move would give a backdoor entry to private companies, do away with a level playing field, and rob the government of valuable revenues. Telcos decided to respond strongly after it seemed possible that the DoT could, in its note for cabinet approval, allow captive private wireless networks to be run by enterprises, as recommended by the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India earlier. If that happens, it would be a complete volte-face.
Government is not going to benefit because it is going to lose out a huge amount of revenue because of lack of auctions, because of lack of discovery of the right price by auction, which legally will be in contravention to the Honorable Supreme Court's direction. But even otherwise, if you see financially, it will be a big loss to the Government of India. So then I don't think they're going to take this action. Third party, the telcos themselves. They've been providing cheap but good, reliable services to the consumer for the last 25 years at very little ARPUs. Now, if this sort of a thing happens, their total business case of rollout of 5G goes for a 6. It is definitely going to create a lot of problems for this Indian telecom industry. And why I'm emphasizing the name Indian telecom industry is very simple to see. Now, the people who are going to get this spectrum administratively allocated to them are not going to spend hundreds and thousands of crores to set up a network within their factory premises or campuses by spending money on capex equipment and opex manpower. They will not do that. Very unlikely. They are going to outsource it to a third party who has the wherewithal and the expertise of doing this. And that third party will be unlicensed, non-participating member in the spectrum auctions. But if he gets 10 or 15 or 16 or 20 of these factory premises to run as an outsource agency on the behalf of people who have got the spectrum allocated, you see, he becomes a telco by himself without having participated, without even being subject to the jurisprudence or to the regulations and policies which are meant for telcos, for the security of the country.
The technology companies have struck back. The Broadband India Forum, or BIF, on Thursday went to bat for direct spectrum allocation for private 5G networks at a nominal administrative fee. Going against the position taken by telcos, BIF argued that the stance that private 5G networks would lead to revenue losses for telcos was a misconception. BIF contends indoor private campus networks do not cut into the legitimate revenue of telcos. According to the industry body, an efficient captive network through private 5G would lead to increased productivity for enterprises. This would help grow business activities and external communications, leading in turn to better revenues for telcos. BIF has argued that most of the revenues accrued by telcos are external and that they remain untouched, and hence government revenues also remain protected. The BIF has also said that there would be no revenue loss to the government on account of direct spectrum allocation for private 5G networks to enterprises, as they shall purchase the spectrum at a price to be fixed by the government and allocated administratively.
First of all, we must understand that private networks is not a public network. It is limited to a local area and has only one potential user in that given area. You cannot have an auction when there is only one user. It makes no sense at all. It's not logical. Hence, the concept of auctions for private networks goes out immediately. It is being misquoted and misrepresented in certain sections that the Honorable Supreme Court of India has actually mandated that only means of assignment of spectrum is through an auction. I would take and draw the reference of all our viewers to Presidential Reference number 1 of the Supreme Court ruling on 2nd February 2012, wherein the Supreme Court opined in its advisory jurisdiction that auction as a method of disposal of natural resources cannot be declared to be a constitutional mandate under Article 14 of the Constitution of India. It further went on to say that though auction may be the best way of maximizing revenues, but revenue maximization may not always be the best way to serve public good. And in this case, what is the public good? The public good is to have digitalization of all the industry and all the different verticals. Hence, it needs to be understood that private networks, with their additional license fee and the spectrum usage charges that they are supposed to pay to the government, actually add another additional revenue stream to the government instead of taking away or reducing the government revenues.
The Business Standard Morning Show had earlier reported that the 5G spectrum auctions are likely to see a muted response from the telcos due to their unmet concerns over pricing. This could be a reason for the slowing down of 5G rollout in India, or at least lead to an uneven spread of 5G services. The tussle over private captive networks will only add to the list of rollout roadblocks. It remains to be seen what impact a muted auction would have on both the government's digital ambitions and revenues.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.
सब अच्छी दिख रही हैं यार, कौन सी खरीदूं?
ये तो वही बात हुई, 4000 शेयर्स लिस्टेड है, कौन सा लूं?
वो तो सबसे आसान है।
तुझे 5 पैसा नहीं पता?
अब तो सबको पता है। 5 पैसा पर है 4000 स्टॉक्स की रिसर्च, टेक्निकल टूल्स और इन्वेस्टमेंट आइडियाज। डाउनलोड 5 पैसा नाउ।
अब तो सबको पता है, investing made easy and rewarding with 5 paisa. Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.